You there?
Yeah.
We're
I'm not used to the new format, right? I'm seriously.
Yeah, we only started using Zoom last week. We were using Skype up and down like the granddads.
Skype.
Yeah,
that's a throwback.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
So,
when we interviewed Darren, sure, we like.
It was Darren that kind of told us.
Yeah, Darren told us. He was like, I haven't used Skype in years. I was like,
to be fair, I was talking to because I actually have after this we do a Fight Factory skull class. Me and Michael May do. Where like we give 2 matches, like we pick 2 matches and get the lads to watch them when we get on and discuss. And like the thing with Zoom is like the time limit can be a killer. And I was like, and Michael said something, guys. He was like, Skype really dropped the ball in the pandemic. Like this was their chance to come back as like like we are the top dogs, and then Zoom just like swooped in and took it all.
I know. Yeah. We were using Skype
the whole time.
Yeah, we were using Skype the whole time, and then the more we kind of got on with it, the like less and less people started to have accounts, and we had to like ask people to set up accounts, and then like find people on it, and it was starting to get more and more messy. At least with Zoom, you can just send the bloody link, and it's kind of But
since the pandemic, everyone has Zoom, like so.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fine. But for anyone who's listening, just listen to us review fucking video platforms. Welcome to our new episode of Just Because Wrestling. We are here. He spoke already, but we haven't properly introduced him. With 1/3 of the More Than Hype. It is Lee Cleary. We had Daniel Carney on 2 weeks ago. So we're keeping the train rolling with the More Than Hype.
Darren Carney.
Darren Carney. Sorry. Don't mind me. I started a new job this week, so my brain is gone.
All over the place. That's okay.
Welcome, Lee. How are you
Thanks
doing?
very much. I'm all right, lads. Thanks for having me on. It's good to get on and talk to you.
Absolutely. Obviously with the pandemic and stuff, it's been kind of a strange one for everyone in terms of wrestling and stuff. And we've talked to a lot of people who have kind of had their like different ways of tackling how keeping up with it in the pandemic and stuff. So what have you been up to in terms of training and keeping fit?
Well, I'm so done and so over the home workouts. I was done and over the home workouts last summer when we opened up for the summer. Like I was done with them then, because at least in the first couple of months, I feel like everyone was like, it obviously wasn't a good thing, but everyone was kind of like, oh yeah, like these few months at home, get yourself into really good shape. Like, this is the time to, and I feel like everyone did kind of get into great shape coming into last summer. But then because we went back into the lockdown, everyone probably got into the worst shape of their lives, that now they're trying to scrape back to getting into the best shape of their lives for the summer opening. Yeah, like for my, obviously like there's nothing, like I was, I've been very much so in the last 8 years, like deep into wrestling training. And I could say that no matter, and like again, I would go through the periods, like I said, sometimes I would have went like, a month doing nothing at home, then I'd go like 2 months really hard. There's nothing that replaces or replicates wrestling training, especially for cardio. Like you can go on all the 5k runs and all the 10k runs that you want. Like I know, because I had it when we went back last summer. I was like, yeah, like we had 2 or 3 months off. Like I've been working out. Like I'll be fine. Like I was doing this 4 times a week, and then I remember the first day I was like, oh my god. I was like, this is like the breathing alone. Like your body, like I feel like my body was so trained into like when to breathe, where to do it, that I didn't even. It was so subconscious. So like I've been doing my own at home training. Like I've been doing my decks of cards, and I got like a few dumbbells, a resistance band. Like it's depressing, but like look, gyms are open in a couple of days now, and it's like Christmas coming up.
I know.
I'm looking forward to it now as well.
Most people got into the best shape of their lives last summer. I got into the worst shape of my life, and then in the second lockdown, I beat that record. I got into even worse shape, and then I was pricing gym all right during the week, because I did the dog. I didn't know all right over the lockdowns, like, and
I said it a couple of weeks back. I started the lockdown, if you were going in terms of UFC weight classes, because I won't give away my actual weight, because I'll only depress myself. But I started as a UFC middleweight, by the second lockdown, I was a UFC heavyweight, and now I'm at a light heavyweight. So I'm kind of got chopping and changing.
Yeah, I did use the first one to I consciously used the first lockdown to put on weight because I'm naturally smaller as like just a person, and then especially in wrestling terms, and I'd always been trying to put on weight, but like I still have such a fast metabolism that between the gym training, just general like moving around, like it would just come off me, and I would eat a lot. So I used this. I was like, right, I'm gonna eat. I put my calories up to like 3,350 a day. I remember in the first lockdown, I started off at about 74, 75 kg, and by the summer I was about 84, 85. So I've been kind of hovering around then since. It was good to get back in the gym then and like turn the fat that I put on into muscle.
It's interesting actually that you say that there about that you wanted to put on weight, and you say like you were a smaller guy in terms of wrestling, and obviously we know infamously back in the day, like WWE and stuff being the land of the giants, and like you couldn't get, you were bloody 6'10" and 350 pounds, but like obviously in more like in the kind of modern wrestling era, like obviously people of a smaller stature, people who aren't fecking giants are able to make it and get better. But do you still think that you need to have that kind of mass on you, or was that just a personal choice?
Yeah, like a bit of both, because no, like for sure now it's amazing for me to see the Daniel Bryan's, Finn Balor's, like people that like Adam Cole, like I'm the same height as, like, all right, it's so reassuring, because again, like you were saying, when like it's even changed so much from when I started in 2013. Now I was only 13, like I was just a kid, but even still then it was still like Daniel Bryan hadn't got like the big run yet. It was still very much so like like you still kind of have to be really big, but it very much like those indie guys especially have changed it, which is amazing. But I do think you still need to be, because like I will look better with a bit of size on me, like I want to look as good as possible as well. Now I'm really I know I'm not going to look like John Cena, like it's just not going to happen. But yeah, I think like having still a bit of a conscious effort, because as well you never want to get into the mindset where you're just like, okay, well look, Adam Cole's like smaller, but he's still in really good shape as well, and he's also in like amazing cardio shape, so you do really need to, and it was a personal thing as well. I felt like I was always really happy with that. I felt like, especially on the OTT shows, that for me, I don't think I was ever looked at as a smaller person, because I was very much conscious of like having a personality that I was like, I'm not going to let anybody leave labeling me as the smaller lad. So I was always really happy with that, but it was always in the back of my head. So I was like, I'm gonna actually use this time, that the next time I come out, like, and it's not a huge difference, but like I look like a little bit bigger, and I still have the huge personality. So I definitely won't get that.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely.
Yeah, like it's an interesting thing when you look at kind of the history of wrestling, and like how it kind of goes through these peaks and valleys, and you see like someone like a Braun Strowman, who was released recently with the WWE, who you would think is prime what they were looking for, and would have been, like, you look back to the 80s, he would have been in the main event with Hulk Hogan.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So it's just that it comes and goes, because even you said even up to 8 years ago when you were starting out, it was still kind of like that, like it was like Brock.
Yeah, I remember like when I started, I remember like I'm like a Cena kid, like I grew up as like Cena was my guy and stuff, but I remember like around the time I started, the main event was like Cena and Ryback and Sheamus. I remember they were all kind of hovering around. I remember it was Cena and Ryback, especially around the time I started training. But yeah, like it's amazing now. Like again, it's amazing for me to see that. Like it's now very much so confirmed you don't need to look like Cena to make it. Like if you are good enough in the ring, and if you're good enough at everything else, you should still always be working on your physique. But like again, it's I'm lucky that it's not the 80s, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I bet Daniel Bryan, that I think he'd say the same thing, that he counts his lucky stars that he's not in the 80s.
Yeah.
But no, definitely it's like, I think people have learned that like you don't have to be a bodybuilder to be a wrestler anymore. Like like it's if you've in-ring prowess, and you do character work, and you can cut a decent promo, and you have like a natural charisma about you, stuff that like you can't teach, like charisma and stuff like that. You can't teach,
Yeah, you can teach it.
and like if you that just comes to you naturally, like I mean, you'll do fine, like, and you'll go far. I
It was
believe.
all that.
Even if,
Yeah.
go on, sorry, go on.
Yes, I was just sorry to cut you off, interrupt you there. It was just what you were saying. It was all that stuff for me. When as it kind of clicked for me, because before I started training, like my favorite wrestler of all time is Jericho, and I remember it was when I read Jericho's first book, I was like, wow, like right. I know he's still, I think he's hovering around 6 foot, but I was like, he's not like huge now. Like but he is such a good person. Like he's so good at everything else. He's such a good wrestler. He's so good in the ring. Like very much so. He obviously worked himself to get to that. I was like, if he can do it, I can do it. That was kind of the push for me, realizing that.
Yeah, he's a unique one as well, because I don't know if, because I've read his books as well. They're all four of them are great books, but I don't know which one it was. But he said in the book that like when he started in WWE, it was like he was the smaller guy, and then towards the end of his run in WWE, he was actually one of the bigger guys in the locker room. It was like even at 6 foot or 6'1", whatever he is, like back then he was considered small. So it's,
I think that's just like, it's just been like the shift in the world, because again, like not just 80s wrestling, like 80s movies, like 80s action movies, it was Schwarzenegger, Stallone, like it was like the muscle bound people. But then, even as it hit the 90s, it starts to move into more like Jean-Claude Van Damme, who isn't huge. He looks amazing. Like he might have a great, but he's not like Stallone huge, or again, like Arnold huge. And then it was kind of the same into the 2000s when like Jackie Chan would have started getting big in America, when it was like, oh, like they were kind of just admiring like what he could do. I think that was just a general thing that shifted with the world, which I think is mad.
Yeah,
that's actually interesting. I've actually never even heard, like I had never even put two and two together on that. It's probably kind of more of a pop culture thing than it is a wrestling thing, where that's actually a very good point. I never even thought of that. But I believe you were going to say something there.
No, I was just agreeing with LJ there that like, if like you can literally track it through time, and like you look like even nowadays, I know you have The Rock and stuff as like this massive action hero, and obviously he's a giant human, but like, you like but you have the likes of like, say, Robert Jr., who was like, he was Iron Man for 10 years, and that guy's, I think he's only like 5'7" or something like that.
Even like Tom Holland is Spider-Man. Obviously that's the whole gimmick as well, is that like he's a kid. But like whereas like I can't imagine, I'm sure there's a few 80s films where like they have like it would always usually be though, if they had like the smaller guy, and like it was the kind of point of the story, like it's the nerdy, like he's gonna get like, and like you said there, Robert Downey Jr. is not Arnold, like but he's Iron Man, so
he's an action hero, and he's not even doing big enough. I mean, he's fit, and he's he kind of looks after himself, but like he's still he's only about 5'7", I think, but like he
like
put the work.
I think we're kind of sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're fine.
That's the thing with these Zoom calls. Like you never know when the cue, like when you're together, the social cues and who's on top. But like that's the thing. I think in terms of like pop culture and stuff, I think that, and it's the same in wrestling. I think that like unrealistic kind of body type, and I'm not saying unrealistic in terms, because obviously people can get there, like Cena and stuff, but like not an everyday body type. Whereas nowadays, if you look at wrestling, especially, like some of the top guys, like you don't have to, or aren't like big body guys. People like Kevin Owens, Eddie Kingston in AEW, like they look like everyday guys, but they're very, very good at their job. So it's interesting in terms of like what the landscape of it is now, that you can turn up and be an everyday guy and still
that's
still
the thing,
be at
like
the top level.
When people like Kevin Owens, because obviously like Kevin Owens is he's an incredible athlete, he's an amazing wrestler. I think some people that sometimes they think like, but they don't realize it's like, oh, like maybe like I look like Kevin Owens, I could be like Kevin Owens and Kingston use example, like they're exceptions, because like Kevin Owens probably has, I don't know if you were to look at top cardiovascular training in WWE, like I would say he's at the top, because he was always having them, especially on the indies, he was having regularly 30 to 40 minute matches, you know, well, that's where again, like, because I think what's amazing, and again, this change, like, I don't know, maybe like Kevin Owens realized I'm not gonna look like Cena, so I'm gonna go down this route. Where like, but if you want me to go down and wrestle for an hour, like, I can do it, no problem. And then he beat Cena, so
Yeah.
Exactly. Do you on the top? Do you prefer wrestling bigger guys, or do you prefer wrestling people the same size as you?
um, like that's a good question. Actually, I've never really thought of, I like wrestling people around my size, but when I want to have, maybe more of my style of match, like, but even take like Darren is a bit taller than me, but there's not a huge size difference. So like, when we wrestle and stuff in training, I really enjoy it. Or like when I wrestle Michael, like, Michael again, he's bigger than me, but there's not a huge thing. Also I like to get to do maybe my style more. But I think when you have I think a big man, small person match, when has even a tiny bit of build up, is amazing. Like, I think that's when you really get, like, when you either treat it as the underdog thing, or you can even do it the reverse way, where the smaller one is the heel. Like,
Yeah.
take like Liam Royal as an example. Like, now there's noticeable size difference there. Like, he's absolutely huge. That's a really, if I had to pick one, I don't know. Like, maybe like not huge, but a little bit bigger than me. But yeah.
Like, and that was one thing we kind of spoke to Darren about. Like, one thing that MTH has and you guys have is, to your advantage, is that you seem to be able to get in there and mix it up with any type of team. Like, you go in there, we saw you wrestle down in Cork here, you wrestled the Rascals, and we've seen you like wrestle the No Fun Police, like totally different people. And that's kind of one of the things I admire about you and More Than Hype, is that no matter who OTT bring in, or whoever you're wrestling for bring in, you seem to be able to adapt that way. And that's something I could only imagine will bode well for you in the future.
Like, that's nice, compliment. So thanks. But no, that it is something that I think we started to realize it. Like, we started to realize we were good at it, and then started making a very conscious effort to do it, if that makes sense. Like, I remember it was just like, around the time about 2018, I remember we got put in. I think the big thing, I honestly think what like got people into MTH was the characters. Like, because I know it always gets said, like the three of us, like, like, we can do all the stuff, like, we can do all the moves, like, the moves can be taught to anybody, like the moves and the movement, like, some it's going to be harder to teach than others, but like, you can be taught all that stuff. But like you were saying, Billy, like, you can't teach the charisma, or you can't teach the chemistry. So I think we made a point earlier, we were like, I think it was a bit of like, I was on my own, I remember, and like, again, I remember taking a big kind of stand with myself to be when Contender started. I remember like the people, it was like me, Darren, Michael, Scotty, and Nain were kind of like the ones getting pushed up, and I was like I was very confident in my wrestling ability. Like, I'm on the same level with these lads, but like, I probably have the best personality out of all of them, or at least like in wrestling terms, like where I can kind of show it. So I remember I made a real conscious effort to, like, that's how I'm going to be remembered, like, initially, and then I'll bring the wrestling out later. I think it's much easier to kind of get people in with your personality, and then now you do need to be obviously you need to be able to wrestle, because you can talk and be as goofy as you want, and then the bell eventually has to ring. But then I think with MTH as well, it was maybe because I was doing a bit after a while, I think I remember Darren and Nain, like, they were having great tag matches and stuff. But I think when we got to put together, like, I kind of helped them bring out their personalities a bit, which then kind of like just morphed into the group. And then when we realized, like, wow, this is what has kind of got us over. It was I remember it was the match that really got us over. It's the first time we did the More Than Hype Activate, where we like sing the Power Rangers theme song and go up into the mega, like, and again, like, explain it, like, it's so stupid. Like, even when I remember we were coming, I remember like it was actually that started by accident, because I remember it was me and Darren were in this mental triple threat tag match on OTT. It was like us against Session Mott Martina and Chantal Mantel against Tropicana. I remember there was just a point when Darren, like, I was on Darren's shoulders. I remember when we were he picked me up before we went out, just to be like, oh, let's just get this. And I remember like messing, we went More Than Hype, Activate, and then we're like, oh, we might say it, like, it might get a laugh or something. And then And then it was when we kind of got the personality bit over, and then I remember we got put in with the Rascals and Mako Satomura, and then that was like, oh wow, like they can actually really go as well. And I think that's what kind of got us that call back to the match you were saying. If the Rascals come over, we need, indie-rific, high octane match, like right, like MTH can do it. Like we need comedy match. MTH, we need just like a few minutes opener. Like we can do it. I think that is like that is what's kind of set us apart and is really going to help us stand out moving into the future as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes you invaluable as wrestlers. Like if you're signed, say, let's say down the line you sign with a WWE or an AEW or whoever, and they're like, right, we need an opener, we need a match before the main event to kind of relax the crowd and get them ready for the main. We need a main event match or whatever. Like these three guys or each one of you individually, you can be put in that spot and you can be relied upon to deliver, whatever match the promoter's looking for or the booker's looking for, which is obviously, it's invaluable. It's invaluable to those companies that you can provide that kind of versatility.
I think that like no matter whatever because I know like it's mad to me to be like, yeah, like I've been training 8 years now. Like I would be one of the more experienced ones in the art. Like it's weird again saying that. Besides, like I feel like again, there's a gap. Like you have like the like the Jordans, the Justies, the Phils. Like when it's clear, or Dave and Max, or like they've been doing it forever, and then like it kind of goes to the younger group. But like I would be one of the much more experienced out of the younger group, which because I'm 22, where I could be like I've nearly been like training 10 years. Yeah. But I think no matter what I learn, because I still have so much more to learn, no matter what I do, like that versatility will be my most valuable asset, like for life. I just have to make sure, I just keep it.
Yeah. And I just want to give a disclaimer as well, is that we're not just saying this because you're here either. We're not just praising MTH because you're here, but if you go back, we've actually been huge supporters of MTH for a long time.
I appreciate that. The microphone goes off and you're like, oh, MTH, the worst.
Tune in for our next episode now, and you'll hear what we really feel. Like I wanted to preference that, like we don't just bring on guests and just be
lick their hole,
blowing smoke. Like, but you are one of our favorite acts in terms of Irish wrestling. So it leads to my next one, because we talked earlier about the pandemic, and we talked about how you're keeping up with the pandemic. But before that, there was a match.
A great time. Before the pandemic, that was amazing.
Yeah.
But before
15 years ago.
But before that, OTT announced a match, including, and I know you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
It was yourself, and you were going to take on Pac, and obviously the match didn't come to be because that card.
Yeah.
So talk to us about that. Talk to us about finding out that the match was like. How did you find out you were in the match against Pac first, and then finding out later that it was off?
Oh, so like
I'm bringing back bad memories though.
I've had the firstly, anyway, listen, I've said this on a few kind of podcasts. I fully believe, whether it's an OTT or ever, I'd like if it was OTT, that match will happen eventually. Like,
yeah,
that it is going to happen. Me versus Pac. But okay, to bring it back a bit. So I remember it was the stadium show that was coming up. So obviously, you kind of know the stadium is coming a bit more in advance, because obviously they have to sell much more tickets. So, we always just, everyone kind of gets the time. It's usually one around March to May, and then you might get October is usually the other one. So, right, like, you're kind of thinking about it in like December, like, right, like and then they got announced for it was around Paddy's Day, and it was like, right, the stadium's coming up, and then everything's got like what's everyone's match going to be, and blah blah blah. And we knew that it was going to be the two lads against Mustache Mountain, because it was meant to happen on the one before. And I was like, right, well, I don't really know what that, like, I wasn't, not to be like, I wasn't worried that I wasn't going to be on it, but I didn't know if I was going to be. And again, obviously, any spot on the stadium card is amazing. I didn't know if I was going to be maybe as featured as I had been on the last one in the ladder match with Scotty. I was a bit like, where do I kind of like lie on this one? And so I'd go to talk to Joe often, and he's like, oh, I was, like I don't know, have any ideas, blah blah. And he says that, but like he knows, he has it all in his head. And I remember one day in the School of Irish Wrestling, I was like, any idea? And this was maybe around February. Like this is the show's in a month. I remember must have been like it was a week before I had a match of contenders for the OTT title. The last contender show I wrestled in the main event for the OTT title, and I remember I was like, any idea? And he said to me, I remember it was weird. He looked at me and he was like, what you are doing on the stadium depends on what I can do in the main event of the stadium. And I was like, okay. I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm not even going to start thinking of things in my head. I was just like, if it happens, it happens. Now, obviously, like, you know, I'd seen like, you know, Pac was going to be on it, and he was a crazy one for me to start being on shows because like I've no problems. Like I'm just a huge wrestling fan. Particularly, I'm a big WWE fan, and again, around the time I started training is when NXT was starting to get really hot. So like he was the NXT champion as when he was Adrian Neville. Like huge part in like when I started to like become a wrestler and start to understand what wrestling was. Like NXT was the hottest thing when it was like him, Sami Zayn, Balor, Tyler Breeze, like Kevin Owens and stuff. And we'd been on a few shows with him, and he was one that I'd be like, we'd be on the way, and I'd be like, holy shit, like Pac is on this, like that's ridiculous. Like to me, you know, like obviously he's Pac, but like to me, I'm like, wow, that's like he's like Neville still. You know, I was kind of looking at him that way just because not that I hadn't grown up with him, he wasn't like the way I grew up, but like seeing it as you know, but I digress anyway. But and then I remember, you know, it was just coming up to the last show in Dublin before the stadium, and I was like, a few people had been like, I think. No one that like knew, but someone just said like, I just could see it being, you know, Pac, and I was like, whoa. I was like, Jesus. I was like, after that, like, I like that'd be a tough one to get ready for, you know, like he's on another level. But I feel like I've been like on a very good singles role as well. I'd had that OTT World Title match, and it went particularly well. I remember like it was a really good match. It got a really good reaction. I have a feeling that might have had a big part to play in the match happening. And this is legit how I found out, right? And again, so obviously I've been trying to like not tell myself that it's even a possibility, because then if it doesn't happen, I'm just disappointed. I remember I pitched a few ideas. What did I think I might have pitched the match with Eddie Kingston and stuff. I remember I seen he was on the show. Like there was a few things I was just like, oh, maybe this, maybe that. Because as weird as it is, like maybe I could be in a different position this time next year. Like I didn't feel like I could go and be like, so like maybe you could do me and Pac, you know. It just didn't seem like one I'm gonna go and ask for, you know. But then I remember, so we had a match against El Fantasmo and the Flip Bros, who are now in AEW, actually called, their team name are Top Flight. And this is honest to God true story. We knew the lads were wrestling Mustache Mountain, and then match ends. I remember the last move didn't go as planned. But anyways, like I remember, crowd reacts. I see Cowboy, Jim West. Yeah, you've probably seen him running around the shows. He's like the unsung hero of OTT. He like does everything. He basically does everything besides book the shows. And I remember seeing him. I was lying down, like, you know, I was sore after the match. I seen him run over and like whisper something to Darren, and I was like, I don't know what he's saying. He might be telling us to get out. Like I remember the match went particularly long. Like I was like, he might be telling us Joe's gone mental. And then it was either Darren or Nate came over to me, and like I was stand up, and they said, like this quickly, they went, we have to call him Mustache Mountain, and you have to call out Pac like now. And I was like, oh. And it was weird when he said it. I didn't even like. I was just like, okay. I was like, because I think I was still in like the, you know, match mode, wrestler mode. Like I was like, okay, all right, yeah. And then I remember all I said on the mic was like, at Scrappermania, Joe, give me Pac or something like that. And it got like, it's, you know, it got a big reaction. And then it was when I walked back, I remember I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh, I couldn't believe that it was happening. Like I could not believe it. That's when like I probably, you know, had to sit down and like really go through it all in my head. So leading up to the match, then obviously like I was kicking into like the, you know, the most cardio I've ever done in my life. Like, you know, eating well, like looking well, wrestling training, like, and then. Because
at this point, like is it, correct me now if I'm wrong, but this is the biggest match of your career.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Like this was going to be the biggest one. I've been lucky and I've been very fortunate to have, big matches against big people. But the opponent, the setting, like with this was like by far the biggest. And I remember leading up to like in the stadium as well. And like, oh, you know, the last OTT show I paid into was the first stadium show, you know, and. Again, I can't 100% confirm, but this was the furthest to the main event, I would have been on the card at the stadium.
Yeah,
You know, like this is the furthest up the card I was going to be.
like a featured match. Like,
yeah, like I have a feeling I could have, like, again, I don't know. I have a feeling like I could have been on, like, you know, after intermission or something. Again, like late in the show, you know, whereas like I'd done the first 3 matches, I think I'd kind of like done. Then I remember the first time I heard about COVID was I was in college. I was in audio class or radio class. Someone goes, see this in China, and I was like, don't care. I'm so bad. Anything that like I'm like doesn't affect me. Like I'm quite bad for being like, I don't care. Little did I know. And then I remember like around March 3rd. Okay, around March 3rd. I remember being with like a few of the lads before training. I remember being with Michael because like Michael had this match with like Joe and Be Cool, like, which was another, like, that was going to be so good. And I remember he was like, I don't want to say, but like that show could get cancelled. And I was just like, no, it's not going to get cancelled. I was like, honest to God, like, I'm not even saying this, I was just refusing to believe it. Because then on March 5th, I went and wrestled the show in England. Had a mad hectic like travel day, wrestled Ace Austin, came home. I remember then on March 7th, I wrestled my last match that I had since the pandemic was against Justy at a Phoenix show down in Cork. And I was like, right. And even I remember that day, it was like, oh, wear your mask in the shop and everything. And I was like, okay. So obviously they're just putting out these like, do this and you'll be all right. So this is March 7th. The show's on March 14th. This is a week. And again, like obviously like I went in, you know, I'm sure you have heard like, you know, the rule, the wrestling, you shake hands. I remember walking into the Cork, it was the gym show, and I was like everyone, you know, I was like, lads, I'm just not touching any of this. Like I can't, like I'm not. And it wasn't even because I didn't understand the severity of it. I was like, I'm not getting sick before the pack match. Like I'm not, like it's not happening. And then it was, I remember March 10th, and it was like, this could get cancelled. And for me, the anticipation of it getting cancelled was far worse. Yeah. Right. And I can remember the time when I saw March 11th, we were in the School of Irish Wrestling. I remember like, so just to give a bit of context, I remember like the Woke Queens, like Debbie and Valky were practicing their entrance. I remember for the stadium. I remember Joe being like, he was like, I don't know what to do about this. Like I might have to cancel this. And I remember I was like, Joe, don't cancel it. I was like, just don't cancel it. I was like, just we do this when we get it out of the way. And then like, yeah, let's lock down then. And you know, he was like, obviously I want to do it. That was March 11th. March 12th. It's my birthday, right? It was my 21st birthday, and I remember
that was a big one.
And I remember waking up. The show hadn't officially been cancelled yet, but I'd seen, you know, in the group chats, people like to see what the government said. I remember just being like, wow. I was just like, and then I got the bus to college. I wasn't even thinking about it. And then in college, they announced the full lockdown, and I was like, right. And then I was like, wow. And again, honestly, I think by that day, I realized kind of like the severity of what was happening, that I was like, okay, this is affecting a lot of people a lot worse than me. Well, like obviously in my head, this is the biggest thing I'm ever going to do at this point. Yeah. But again, it was the anticipation of when people were like, this show might get cancelled. I was like, shut up. It's not going to get cancelled. Like you saying that, you're going to bring this into the world. Like don't. And then I remember that night, on my birthday, I remember like we went to I remember like there was a huge group of us that went to Eddie Rockets, and we were like, right, because that was like, right, we're not going to see each other for 2 weeks at the time, as we thought. But yeah, like you know, it was again, like I said, when I realized the severity, it didn't really bother me that much. But there will be times that I have these days still now. Like recently, I remember there was a day in the summer where I was walking, you know, on your lockdown walk or whatever, but things were open. I remember I was just, it was a lovely day, and I was shuffling through Spotify, and his theme song came on, and then I was just like, I was like, God, like it's just when I have to look at, like, you know, it was going to be the launching point, you know, of like I feel like we were like really up and up and up, like not just in Ireland, around Europe, and you know that could have been, we'd already had a good match with the Lucha Brothers, you know, who are in AEW, like Pax in AEW, so yeah, like it was a blow for sure. Like it still is. Again, sometimes I'll look at the graphic and be like, ugh, like God, it was like, even when I seen the match graphic, I was just like, oh my God, like this is real. But you know, I've tried to look at everything as positively as I can. You know, one thing I think, you know, obviously, you know, pandemic is not good for anyone, but something that I think kind of worked out in my favor, especially now, is that I was in my 3rd year in college when it hit. I just finished there like literally about 2 weeks ago, my 4th year, so I'm done now.
I
Yeah.
finished last week as
So I think and my parents are extremely supportive of the wrestling and stuff. Like they really help me. If they know what I'm doing, you know, like they watched it with me as a kid. Like they get what it is. They've been to the stadium show, so like they've seen what it is. And I think we were going so well that I feel like, and I can't say for sure now, that I would have been offered something while I was still in college, and that would have caused a problem, because it would have been like, right, I obviously would have went and taken whatever it was, like without taking it. My parents would have been like, you know, well, we made a deal with you that like we'll help you out financially if you do college. So, and now, like things are about to kind of start back, and I'm finished college, so I kind of have to look at it as like, well, I didn't get that much. It's a big blow, but I've now 100% come out. You know, I haven't got my results yet, but I imagine I've got my degree. I hope so anyway. And now like things are starting back, so
yeah,
that's the back story.
No, I mean that it's crazy, and like it's kind of one of these things that like you like at the time, obviously it's the worst thing in the world, and like you're like you go from being on cloud 9 to rock bottom, and you're just like, this is absolutely awful. And then as time goes on, you realize, you know, this may be the best, you know, like you said there, now you got to finish college, and you know, you realize that like,
no interruptions, which like there would have been some. I was already like, it was, you know, I was already like, I was having some crazy days where like I'd go to college from 9 to 12, leave the lecture, fly to Liverpool, do a show, come back the night, be back in college the next morning, and people be like, were you not in England yesterday? And I'd be like, yeah, absolutely half asleep, you know. And that only would have got harder in 4th year, because 4th year is the hardest year, and the wrestling seriously would have picked up as well. So like I do believe, again, if I have to tell myself that's why the pack match didn't happen, then I think you know, it really did work out for me that way.
Like I've done college where like me and you, Billy, would have gone to shows. Like we'd go to like an OTT show in Dublin, and I'm in the next morning, and I'm exhausted. So I can only imagine what it's like if you're actually wrestling on the card.
I remember there the last. It wasn't the last OTT show. I think it was the last WWE show we went to. It was a house show in Dublin, and I finished my exams that day. I don't know if you remember, Jack, but I finished. I had my last exam that morning, and or like in the afternoon, so it was like 12 to 2 or something like that, and we were getting the bus at like 3. So I had to hightail it from college to the train station, or the train. Sorry. So I had to like literally sprint from the college to the train station so we could catch a train. And we already had tickets paid for, by the way. And train tickets are not bloody cheap. Like that. And we had to get the train up then, and I was fucking exhausted on the train, and it was like all I did was bloody do a environmental science exam, but
like we do days. I remember, was it oh Jesus, was it the OTT show we went to? It was one of the stadium shows that we went to, wasn't it?
And they're long.
Yeah, and we went up. We made the stupid decision of we're going to go up and down in the day, and that's
we'll
never do that again. So we
best off taking a day off, getting a hotel or something like.
Yeah, so we went and left early in the morning. Went bus 3-hour thing up to Dublin, and like the show. And then like then the show was like, we were thinking, okay, show starts at around 7. We'll be out by 10. It'll be fine. We'll get to
not happening.
No, it was like nearly 1:45 before we were leaving the stadium, and we were then trying to get a taxi.
Trying to get a taxi was the worst thing ever, mate. It was trying to get, like, we were there for like an hour trying to get a cab.
Because like the Tallaght Stadium's in the middle of nowhere, sure, you know yourself, like trying to get when you're a
the
bus.
Tallaght Stadium's rotten to get to.
And my phone died as well. That was the thing. Like I was using the my
taxi.
Yeah, and my phone was on like 3% at the time or something, like, and it was an absolute nightmare. And like even the Cork show, when we went to the Cork show, you were working, Jack, and I had to go out to the opposite side of the city. I said, I'll collect you and we'll drive to the thing. So I drove out to the south side, got you from work, whatever time you finished, was like 6 or something. You got changed in the back seat of my car as I'm rapiding down the road
like a wrestler. I've had to do that in taxis going to shows, like get changed.
That's it. Like, and I ended up making a fool of myself in front of Jordan Devlin that day. Remember? the intermission came because we were late arriving to the show. And we were intermission, and we said we'll go down and meet up with some of the guys anyway and try and take photos. So we got to Jordan Devlin, and like I'd met him once or twice and knew what he was like or whatever. So I was like, "Oh, Jordan, how's it going?" And then I said to him when we got our picture done, I said, "Best luck tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you wrestle." But he was already after wrestling. He was on
first.
He was on first. He looked at me and he's like, "Okay, thanks." And I was like, and then it was only when the main event came on I realized, oh, for fuck's sake, he was after wrestling. And I wished him best of luck. But yeah, so there was a little side note in terms of our tales of going.
It's hectic being a wrestling fan.
Never mind being a wrestler.
Never mind being a wrestler. Yeah, exactly. But
so one thing I wanted to talk about, and it's something that's kind of interested me since it came about, and you're the first person that's kind of properly involved in it, is the Irish Wrestling Board that was announced. When was announced? It was kind of earlier this year, towards the end of last year, wasn't it?
I think it might have been like maybe August, September-ish, like around then.
Yeah. So for people who are listening that don't know what it's about, people outside of Ireland or whatever, talk to us a little about the Irish Wrestling Board, why it was important to set it up, and how it'll benefit Irish wrestling going forward.
Yeah, I'll just give I guess a quick kind of brief on it. Like the idea of it is to like safeguard, Irish wrestling and the people in it and the people that want to be part of it. Like a big thing for me that like I wanted to do is that if a parent wants their kid, teenager, and again I think like 16 and up is now, like I know I snuck in at 13, but I'm pretty sure now it's 16 and up is the age, if a parent wants to know like what their kids are getting into, or at least like wrestling's already strange as it is when you're watching it on telly, especially if you're not into it. So if a parent's watching that and they're like, okay, well, what, if my kid's getting into this, what are the guidelines here, something happens or anything like that, regarding the schools anyway, like that was a big thing for me that like I wanted to be kind of implemented, which again is the whole idea of it. And it also has brought in, obviously there was some crazy stuff in the summer that was going on, or some kind of horrific stuff coming out. So it's just to kind of, I guess, tighten things up a bit more regarding like what do you do if something like this happens, or at least like or like how do you go about dealing with it, and because obviously it takes time to kind of put these things into play, and obviously hopefully there won't be anything, like hopefully there is nothing you have to deal with, but that's generally what it is with the idea of being like safeguarding Irish wrestling with the wrestlers and like the people that want to join.
Yeah, absolutely, because like that was obviously one of the like when the speaking out movement happened and stuff, and that obviously kind of shook especially Irish and English wrestling to its core, and in the independent scene, like it kind of really kind of shined a light on a lot of people who are very prominent in on the scene, and kind of people who kind of influence and their kind of position to take advantage of other, and like obviously not just in wrestling but in kind of in life, if someone suffers an assault of that nature, or stuff like that, the hardest part is the speaking out part, and kind of the hardest part is kind of dealing with it after, saying like, oh, this has happened to me, what's going to be done about it. And obviously if with the Irish Wrestling Board now in play, if something was to happen, God forbid, if it ever happened again, and like I think people would know that like, oh, there are several people now that we can talk to, that we can address this issue, that it can be then sorted, and whoever is responsible can then be kind of punished for their actions accordingly.
Like I think like kind of a point as well, moving forward is going to be that obviously it's ideally it's kind of looking at Irish wrestling, but like schools are still run by individual people. Like you're likely never going to get like 6 different people to agree on one certain thing. So like again with the idea of it being like that, just take like like Fight Factory and like School of Irish Wrestling, for example. Like they will will have their own like separate safeguarding things. Generally they will likely be extremely similar, but maybe there's like 1 or 2 different things that might be different depending on, I don't know, like who the coach is in one school, or like, okay, School of Irish Wrestling might be more OTT affiliated, with OTT being like a big promotion. They might have separate other rules, whereas like Fight Factory, we do run shows, but at the same time, we're kind of more focused on training skill. And then like, I just kind of have, I guess, my personal position is more so to be, like I said, it's I understand like it could be a bit daunting as well to be like, this lad's like 22, but like I feel like I'm quite mature for my age. Like I've been around a good bit as well, that especially the younger people would probably find it much easier to come and speak to me. And even if like, again, if it's something that I don't have the capabilities to deal with, at least they can come say it to me and I can come bring it to someone who does then. But if I'm there, at least they might then be comfortable enough to come to me first. So yeah.
Well, like it's good now that people have a point of contact, at least, like that they can come to the likes of yourself or any member of the Irish Wrestling Board, and to prevent things that were obviously spoken about last year, prevent things from happening like that once again. And like you'd be hoping that the speaking out movement and everything that went on there would have led to a lot of these people being removed from the business and the kind of scope of wrestling, and a lot of it has. And that's one thing that was that I'd credit OTT with. They actually probably acted one of the fastest in terms of big decisions, because like there was some big people on that card that they or like in their roster, let's say, that they have to make decisions on and get rid of. And credit to him, because like you can't like, from the stories anyway, you can't have these people in locker rooms and stuff. So it was thanks for answering that, because like it's obviously not easy in terms of something to talk about, the speaking out movement, but that I hope people take from that the Irish Wrestling Board is set up to prevent that from happening.
No problem. And again, like I'm kind of now looking forward to moving forward, like, which is obviously the idea behind it.
And see, that was kind of the thing as well, because this, like, that all kind of happened during the pandemic. So like, we haven't been really,
you can't really like on. It's, you still can't, you still won't really know, right? Like I guess is there much of a difference in anything, because there's nothing that's happened yet. So I think generally, I'm confident, I guess, to cover like about myself and my own kind of space, that moving forward, that things will be good. And I think everyone needs a bit of the like positivity now. Like everyone needs like a show, like not even like just a show, but like, I don't know, take like use for example like the day of it, because usually you make a day of it, and for me it's weird that like I need to be told to come to ring crew at 12 o'clock, which is strange, but like I'll never take these, like I mentioned earlier, I hate the Cork car journey, which I 100% do, but now like I can't wait to be sitting in the car. It's driving home from Cork is rough.
Yeah, that's it.
We'd say the same about Dublin.
It's the same, it's the same process. Like we going to Dublin is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. But like I'm literally going to Dublin in a month's time, just for a weekend away. And I genuinely can't wait for the fucking drive. I genuinely can't wait to just like drive up the M8 for 4 hours. Just because I just like sick to death of Cork. But anyway, we'll move on from that kind of that heavy enough subject. And we'll stay on the topic though of kind of OTT making big decisions, right? Because there's a question I want to pose to you, and it's something I asked Darren. And right. So as we know, the OTT World Championship is vacant at the moment, right? So obviously a call needs to be made on what's going to happen with that. I don't know what Mr. Cabrera is thinking of doing about that, but look, he does. But if I was the booker, and I said this to Darren as well, if I was the booker, if I was making the calls, I would how would this go down now in your head, right? How would you feel about this? We did Darren Carney versus LJ Cleary versus Nathan Martin, triple threat for the vacant OTT World Championship. You take your three, you take
wow.
you take your three up and coming, take your three.
Darren along the lines of God, sorry.
No. I was just saying, like, Darren. Yeah, Darren was saying.
Sorry.
No. Like Darren was saying. Yeah, Darren was saying that, like, oh, one of you takes the world title, the other two take the tag titles, which is cool too. I mean, that's obviously something that'd be awesome. But, like,
I kind of like
just a bit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. My thing on, is it?
Yeah, I was cutting out there. But if I'll take over if you want to set that up there. What he was trying to say was Darren was along the lines of two of you take the tag titles and one of you take the world title. But what would you say to a triple threat?
Obviously, I want the I want to be like the OTT champion 100%. Like, that's one of my big goals. I've already won a title in OTT as well. I think I was the first contender to, like, I don't know, you probably can't see it, air quotes, yeah. Contender that moved, that won a main roster, air quotes again, title. So the OTT title for me is a huge one. I'm on these stadium shows, I'm watching these main events, watching Jordan win that, in the main event and stuff is absolutely amazing. But I don't want to fight the lads though. No, but
that's the thing. That's what I said to.
But if I have to, then I guess.
I said to Darren, I don't want you falling out over it, or anything. A respectful triple threat. Best man wins kind of thing. Loser buys the beer.
I feel like I would probably be the type to be the one. I wouldn't be doing anything huge, but I would probably be the one that would be a little bit sneaky. I wouldn't be, breaking anyone's heart or anything, but I'd be willing to jump from behind someone and pin them and to win.
So you're saying you're the Seth Rollins if this was the shoe?
I guess, yeah. But no, winning the OT title is winning the OT tag titles as well. You want to win everything, but yeah, for me, the OTT title is a huge one. I would love to maybe win that and then get that match with Pac or something. That would be a huge one for me.
Title on the line.
Yeah, that would be, because then I know we'd be the main as well. We'd be the main, and I think we could build. I know that wasn't the final match on that show, but I firmly believe, and obviously it didn't happen, so I can't test it. I think we were going to be the best match that weekend. I know John Moxley was in the main event and everything. That was amazing, but I think me versus Pac would have had the biggest this is our guy feel, as one of the Irish people against one of the top talents in the world. So
it would have been kind of similar to when Liger came in and wrestled Scotty. Kind of along those lines where you're getting this big name and he's wrestling one of
the young Irish one.
So so in terms of that, I know we've talked a lot about Pac and stuff. Is there anyone else that you have your eye on in terms of who you want to face?
Regarding what happens, but dream match for me in OTT is I'd love to wrestle in a single. I have wrestled him twice, but I'd love to wrestle Charlie Sterling in a singles match. I've actually tried a good few times. I've asked Joe would he do a British rounds match with me and Charlie? I think again I don't know, it might sound weird me saying that from he's watching me, but that it'd be a style that I would consider myself quite good at. I just again, I would teach it a lot, I would do it a lot in training, but it's more of a different one to bust out. You don't necessarily have the time in a 6-man tag to start. They're kind of matches that need a good bit of time into it to build. So Charlie would be a big one. If I'm going super dream opponent, Jericho is the number one. Jericho, Christian. Now that Christian's come back, I think Christian's the most underrated wrestler ever. I think he's absolutely amazing. Who Who else? Like again, I'm trying to not just think it to be like, oh yeah, like Randy Orton. Like I'm trying to think of someone that like, as much as I think I will wrestle Randy Orton, someone that kind of in the like that I can wrestle coming up. Pac is the big one for sure. Charlie.
There's one
Yeah.
that kind of comes to mind with Yi in terms of MTH as a trio. And I said this to Darren when he was on as well. I'd love to see Yi wrestle Jurassic Express.
Oh yeah, that would be unreal.
Because I think obviously as well, because Yi do the sitting on the shoulders, and so do they.
Yeah.
There's a lot that could be done there as well, So that they're one team I'd love to see face, and they're I could easily see OTT bringing them in at some point.
Yeah, that'd be unreal. There's like obviously like the to wrestle FTR, like the revival, like Jesus, that'd be unbelievable. Like it was actually a big one for me, and this might seem a bit strange. Matt Cardona, or like he's more known as Zack Ryder, would be a huge one for me. Like he is like I'm again, like I was when 2011 Z-Turn on story, like Ryder Revolution, like I was the biggest fan. Like I still have all the merch. I have a T-shirt still in my room that he threw at me at a WWE show, because like he genuinely was a big influence on me wrestling. So he would be one that I think he's one I'd love to wrestle maybe on like a Five Factory show. Like that would really feel like real personal to me, because like I think I was probably my first 2 years of training. I was training in Zack Ryder T-shirts.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So, Billy, do you have anything else?
No, I have nothing else to talk about. I think I've hit all my points.
So, before we leave you go, I'm going to have a kind of a quick fire round with you here.
Let's
go. I don't know. Like, we were kind of talking off where, but you mentioned you're not a big football fan, so you mightn't get the reference. But there was a show on Sky. I'm being very niche here now, but in mornings it was Soccer AM.
Oh yeah, no Soccer. That was on after SmackDown on Saturday
morning. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I was on after SmackDown. So they used to do a thing.
Watch the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. But they used to do a segment where they'd interview a player and they'd ask them questions on their teammates.
Okay.
So, and kind of light-hearted kind of questions. So I'm going to do the same with you in terms of MTH.
Yeah.
So are you ready?
I think, yeah, go. I think there's one question I know, like I heard before. We're going.
So who's the best trainer out of the three? Who works hardest in training?
Well, you know what? I'm going to say me for that, because since I'm a coach in Five Factory and in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So as a trainer, I'm going to say it's me.
Biggest moaner. Who can have a good moan? Darren.
Yeah.
Who'd win a race between the three?
Me and Darren would be close now. Me and Darren would be close. I remember there was one time in the... I remember once in the School of Irish Wrestling, we were doing a drill. They're called set goes. You probably might have seen clips of them. It's a wrestling drill where like you're on your back, you say set, and you like stand up in fine position, go, and you drop down to your back. And it started with like 10 people, and it's like whoever did it the slowest got eliminated. I remember it came down to me and Darren, and they just had to call it a draw, because like they called it about 10 times, and we just kept getting up at the exact same time. So I'm gonna say me and Darren have a nice draw there.
I feel like if you were to ever wrestle on a big show, there's a spot there. If you get up like simultaneously, it seems like there's a spot there.
Yeah.
So hold on now, my writing is awful, so I can't even read my own writing. Most I don't know. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but most likely to draw trouble on a night out.
We're babies. Like we don't drink or anything. Like we don't go on nights ever. We go home. Oh well, you know what? I guess I'll say there was one time we stayed in an apartment in Manchester a few days, and I absolutely upended a sofa bed trying to do a double foot stomp on it sober. So I guess I was like that was about 3 years ago. But,
all right, who takes longest to get ready?
Darren, easily.
And last one, who's the worst dancer out of the three?
I don't know. Jeez, I think we're all pretty good.
Have a
Maybe
guess.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safest option is just to say you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that concludes it. There you go. The highest level of production values here on this podcast. LJ, it was an absolute pleasure. As we said,
thanks for having me on. Really enjoyed it.
As we said at the top and throughout, like we've been big fans of MTH for a while now. So it was great to have you on and to have Darren and
we'll have to get Nate
on to
complete the set.
Yeah, we want to have Nate on as well. So yeah, it was a big honor. Would love to do it again, maybe someday with all three of you.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely love to do it again. Hopefully see you soon. Hopefully see you at a show soon. You know,
yeah.
I mean, we said
OTT
obviously, our teasing return dates, and hopefully we'll definitely be there with bells on anyway. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
so hopefully we'll see you there.
Yeah, and we have and I know you say you don't drink for sure, neither do I. So we can all go for a nice mineral afterwards.
Yeah. Me and Darren love a Lucozade original, a cold one.
Bye.
So.
Stop.
Yeah.
No, I love a Lucozade original. Pint glass, load of ice. Get it.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing as well, like, because Billy doesn't drink, but I do. So like
classic Jack.
Yeah. So when we go up to these shows or whatever,
Billy looks after it.
It's not even. But like, we'll go to the pub beforehand. But like, it's the classic, dad bringing his son, a bottle of Coke and a pack of
crisps.
But I have my pints. Hopefully once things open up, anyway, we'll get to see wrestle live and see you at the shows. So again, Lee, thanks very much for coming on.
No worries.
Before you go, actually, is there anything you want to plug?
Just follow the schools, Fight Factory Pro Wrestling, School of Irish Wrestling. Follow me, LJ_Cleary on Twitter and Instagram. You want to go follow any other Irish wrestlers, look at who I'm following. They're all there. If you few of my matches up on YouTube, look up my name. OTT On Demand is your best bet to get my best content anyway. So yeah, stuff on it soon as well.
Cool. So yeah, we're Just Because Wrestling. Obviously, you wouldn't be listening if you didn't know. It's
be weird, right? Wondering how you landed on it.
So follow us at JB Wrestling 1998 and on Instagram and YouTube we're Just Because Wrestling. There's clips of these podcasts which will be going up on our Twitter very soon, or on our YouTube. Jesus, I'm butchering this. Last week we had clips from our Speedball Mike Bailey interview on, so there's clips up on that. And thanks for listening. Have a good evening. Thanks, guys.